What up, guys? This is Orcs bringing you a brand new Objectively Outlook video. Today we will be talking about the preseason CDL power rankings for this upcoming season. So we have a lot of brand new teams, some new names, and a lot of new faces in these teams. And today I'm gonna be talking about my top 12 rankings for the CDL season. So let's start right on. A lot of new rosters coming in, and one of the new rosters that I think is gonna be the bottom of the team, bottom of the league. You know, it's gonna take them a while, but for me, that is LAG. LAG has dropped 3 out of their 4 players, keeping Assault, and bringing in new faces from the Challengers League or Challengers Division. And bringing in Estriel, Diamond Con, and Fame. Fame was originally from Rocker last season, and now he's joined up with Assault. And this team has played together in Challengers seasons ago, and they're pretty good. They actually won. A combination of them won a couple things in Challengers, and they're a really good Challengers team. But I think that, they're gonna have to test how good they are in the CDL, and this is their start and maybe their only chance. But hopefully, they bring it all they can and turn out to be a good team. So that will be my 12th team. We're starting off from the bottom of the rankings. I will be placing them as my 12th. All right, for my 11th team in this season, for me, I think that they're always known to be one of the last couple teams made, also one of the team to grab all the scraps from every other team. And last year they were pretty good. Last year they were really good, surprisingly, with the Standy pickup. And for me, that is going to be Legion. I think Legion is a really good team. Nero did good on Boston. Attach was a pretty good player for a rocker. And Standy actually had a really good season last year. Purge coming up from the Challenger scene. And I've heard good things about him. But I think this roster is a little bit of a mixture of different personalities. I don't know if they will mesh, and it might take some time for them to get things going. But I do think that they have a little bit of star power. Each player has done their respective thing on each team that they've been on. But for me, they have to prove it. This is technically my bottom of the barrel, CDL team. Not counting LAG, because LAG, they're all new and they're mostly Challenger players. So for me, this is my bottom team. They do get 11th, and they have a lot to prove, and for sure need to see an attach that can collect these young players and try to form something good out of them. So they will be my 11th team. All right, for my 10th team, I have a roster who is a fresh faces, mostly to the league, and the brand new branding of what used to be the Florida Mutineers. For me, that is going to be Miami Heretics. They actually brought in a full Spanish team. Kind of cool to see, because nowadays we have a mixture of EU and A, but this is full Spaniard. And I mean, some faces that we've seen before in the CWL. Vico comes in and stays from the Florida Mutineers and takes on this Miami Heretics team. And he comes in with Journey, Lucky, and Metals. This team is some faces have been in the league before, but they still remain playing the game. And now they're all together on a team. And I think that this team will have a lot of passion and good chemistry because they've all played with each other. Vico is kind of new, but Vico knows them, so this is not anything new to him. And this team will probably have the most passion. I have them as my 10th team. they're not a bad team. Lucky looks like their best player right now. He's been playing a lot of the tournaments that Pro Sims and all that Zuma had and Optic had, and he didn't do that bad. So I can see this team being a really good team. I kind of want to know what Metals has and Journey has. Vickle, we saw him last year. He wasn't that bad. He actually had some good games, some good series going on for him. But this team is brand new, and they look a little better than Legion. But they are my 10th team. All right, for my 9th team, this team was actually pretty good last year. They didn't end well, but they had a pretty good roster. But this year, they actually made a pretty good team. I'm gonna say the team. The team is Rocker. Their team isn't bad. Bringing in a new young player in Lins, someone really good for this team to build around his accuracy because he's well known for bringing in new players and teaching them how to play. Like back in World War II when he had Kenny, obviously the last 2 years with Pred, and now with Lins. This team is with Awakening and Vivid, two really good players for this team. Brings in a lot of slaying power. Awakening and Vivid known to be high kill players. And with the help of accuracy, this team could actually be put around together and have good chemistry. Hopefully, last year, we had Surge, and Surge kind of needed more slaying power. Accuracy was doing a lot of the dirty work, getting in the hill, getting the time, getting the rotations, but he needed a little more. He obviously had Pred and Sib, but we didn't get much out of Mac. And I think this team for him is an upgrade. For Rocker, I don't know if it is an upgrade. It's a little better than last year. Have way more potential, but I need to see it from Lins. Obviously, this sub duo it needs to prove themselves. I think Awakening and Accuracy have made a name for themselves, but Vivid has kind of lost his trail and kind of needs to prove that he is a good sub. And if he can be a primary sub for this team. I don't know. This is an AR meta, so I don't know who's running third AR. Hopefully it's not Lins because I would like to see him on the sub. But this for sure is my 9th team. All right, for my 8th team, this team is had a rough time last year. They lost a player to retirement, and they had something going, but never really had a good placing. I think first event had a good placing, but besides that, it didn't go in well. And they tried to build a nice team. My 8th team is gonna be Boston Breach. Boston Breach. They're able to bring in Priesta, who was dropped after the subliner win at COD Champs. In MW2, and they're able to bring Priesta in. They keep Snoopy from last year, who was put in at the end of the season in Champs. Didn't play much, but he showed that he has enough talent and kind of deserves a shot. They're able to bring Capsule back, who had a rough season in Modern Warfare or in Vanguard. Sorry. And hopefully he can show his more consistent side, because that was a big problem. He was inconsistent in respawn. But I do think a guy like Slasher will be able to bring this team all together. I do have him at 8. I don't think their ARs are as good as they would want it to be. I think they were pushing more for a sub-meta team. Snoopy has a lot to prove. But I don't think Slasher and Priesta are a good AR duo, and in this game we have a very heavy AR meta. So I think that this team will lack in that AR meta. I think Priesta is good, but he's more of a flex, and you don't really have a solid 2 AR. So this team is probably gonna struggle. So for me, I have him as my 8th team. For my 7th team, I have a team who played very well last season. Very well the last maybe 3 seasons, 2 seasons. They had a good vanguard. I mean, I can't even think about them, but they were really good. Um, Played really well against Optic and kind of made a name for themselves as the Optic killer in the last couple of years. And yeah, and they had a really good team. Unfortunately, we had one of them retire. Obviously, Octane retired, but I am talking about the LA Thieves. So yeah, so they lost Octane to retirement. Obviously we had a Draza was going, had a crazy offers going to other teams. Envoy had an offer, and then Kenny at towards the later side of the roster mania had an offer or got an offer. So they all were let go, and they brought in a new team. They brought in Afro from Rocker, who isn't a bad player. I think kind of made a bad name for himself during the Rocker stint. But I know that he has what it takes to be a good sub player. Cammy, who's been known to not put up his level, also played in Rocker. And I think that he has more to prove. Hopefully, he can get back to that Toronto Ultra type of level that he was playing in. We have Ghosty, who comes in from the Optic run that he had last year. Pretty good run, comes in, helps the team, places very well. And Joe Deceives, who was one of the players who LAG picked up from Challengers, ended up playing very well, and most likely might become one of the staples in Call of Duty. And hopefully he does play well in this team. But yeah, Ghosty makes this team well-rounded. Slaying power from Cammy. Hopefully we can get that. And Afro hopefully can help in the sub department. This team is, lower than other teams. I know a lot of people have them higher. But I think that this team has a lot more to prove. A lot of pieces that are left from other teams. But I still think they have enough what it takes to be a top 8 team. I just don't think that they breached to that top 6. I think they have to prove that. A lot of people don't think that Cammy and Afro have what it takes after that Rocker season. And we don't know what type of Joe Deceives we get. Hopefully he's more hungry and can improve and show how good he is. But this is my 7th team. All right, for my 16th, this team is actually a team that has moved locations, and has kept the same name. Logo has changed, but they have moved to a different location, and now they're known as the Carolina Royal Ravens. This team has kind of taken Clayster and worked around him. This team last year was not good at all, and was really looking for a revival, but was able to look into Clayster, who had a pretty good season on Legion and kind of made that team a runner in champs, but they were able to pick up Clayster, brought in got RX, happy that he got another chance on a league team. Someone who I thought would have been a good pickup instead of Mac last year towards the end of the season. Gwen would have been amazing, and I think that I'm happy that he's getting a chance because I do think he's a really good S&D player. And then Real, who's my kind of unknown player. I know him from Challengers, but he is the one that needs to prove himself. But this team has been playing very well in this new game. They've been scrimming, playing well, playing a lot of teams, getting a lot of different results, but they're all pretty much good. And yeah, and the more reps you get, the better you get. They might be an early team who gets good. And Clayster's always known to have a team in the race. And I don't think this is a dark horse because this is a top 6 team. I don't think they break top 4. I think this is what they are. Their best placing will probably be top 6. But I do think that this team is the one to beat if you do want to get top six, coming from LA Thieves and Boston. This team, Rocker as well, this team will have to be the one that they have to beat for a top six placing. And they've shown that they're better than these other teams, gotten ahead of them, and maybe later down the season, they become a top 8 team. But for now, I have them as my top 6. All right, to round out my top 6, as my 15th of the preseason for the power rankings of the CDL, I have a team who has completely changed their roster. I think that they went in a different route, let go of a lot of players, a lot of talent, which I do think that they should have kept someone. They didn't keep anyone and kind of started fresh, but they were early birds into getting this new upcoming talent. And yeah, so that team is going to be Surge. For me, Surge had a good chance of keeping Sib, which I think would have been good for them. I know Pred was already halfway gone through the middle of the season, so as an Optic fan, he was already kind of indebted and wanted to be on Optic, so that was just half the race. We were waiting for the season to end. They probably should have sold him and kept some money, and most likely re-signed Sib, but they weren't able to, so they moved on. They were able to get a new player who played amazingly at Challengers Champs in Abuza, and he is one of the up and coming, probably for the Rookie of the Year, and he's known to play AR. They kind of want him to play sub on this team with the likes of Arcides and Illy. I do think that they made a mistake in not having him as flex, but since this is such an AR heavy meta, I think they lucked out, because if they were in a sub meta, Hook really doesn't have that star power, but in a game like this where you don't really need a sub duo, this actually works out for them, and Abuza can flex. He can play the third AR, he can play the second sub, but this kind of helps them. So I do think this team is better. They played a lot of the early kickoff S&D tournaments, played great. So I think this team will be heavily dependent on their S&D game. But I do think that in respawn, they might be able to take control or maybe some hard points. But I do think they have that AR heavy meta working on their favor. So yeah, so I think this team is great, and hopefully they break a top 4. I don't see that happening, but they will remain as a top 6 team above all these other teams. I think they have what it takes, and they also have a good coach in Rambo, so this team most likely will show how good they are and hopefully, improve. But yeah, this is my 15th. All right, for the 14th, I have a team who did very well last year in a sub-meta game. Let go of one of their players after a win. And yeah, that team is Subliners. To me, Subliners had a really good season last year. Hydra, who I think should have been on Optic, but decided to stay after it got leaked that he was going Optic and nothing really happened. But he stayed on New York and they played out great. Ended up winning champs, and yeah, so they kept 3/4 of their roster. They let go of Priesta. They had a situation with him because they said of money issues, but we all know that in COD players take pay cuts just to keep their roster, like LA Thieves did. So this is nothing that they should have had an issue with. If they really wanted to stay, they would have taken a pay cut. That wouldn't have mattered. But that might have helped them to get him off the team and find reasons for him to not come back. So yeah, so they were able to let go of Priesta and look for someone better, which in my opinion kind of helped them because they needed more AR presence. I have them as my 14th because I think their AR duo isn't going to be as good as the other top 4 AR duos. I think, Skies is amazing. Sib is very good at slaying, but I don't think the Sky Sib will make up for these other AR duels. I think, you know, I mean, we haven't named other teams. Obviously, FaZe's AR duo is amazing. Same thing with Kenny and Dashi, and then obviously Inside and Scrappy, who already have shown that are good enough. These AR duels aren't as, or this one isn't as good as those three other teams, but I do think that Hydra could make up for that. Hopefully, they have Kismet as flex, and maybe he does better on the flex. But we need more out of Kismet for this team to look a little better. If this was probably a sub meta game, I'd probably put New York a little higher. But Hydra being there kind of helps them in a sub meta game, but not in this game. And maybe Sib makes up for it, but last year he was a little bit inconsistent, so I can't depend on him too much. And we know Skies is good, but he's not no 40 bomb, 30 bomb plus. So, yeah, so this is my fourth team. All right, for my third team, for this CDL power rankings, I have a team who had a lot of second places last year. Thought was gonna have a win later in the year. They didn't. Made a couple roster changes. Someone retired. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, I am talking about Optic. So yeah, so this team, for me, had a really good chance of winning last year. Struggled a lot. With the hook. Very inconsistent. Very good online. Bad on LAN. Obviously Ghosty was coming in brand new. A lot of people wanted them to keep Ghosty, but they let go of Kenny, Illy. I mean, they let go of everybody. They kept Dashi and Shotzi, and yeah, and then they looked for a new player. They really wanted Pred during the last season. They weren't able to get him. Surge did not want to let him go, and they ended up losing. Didn't matter for Surge, but Pred obviously wanted to play for Optic, and they were able to bring him in. And they had talks with bringing in Draza, but obviously Draza wanted the best possible opportunity, which was another team. And they had to look for someone else. A lot of people wanted them to bring in Sib, but I think that would have been too much slaying power and not enough teamwork. They needed an IGL, and what better than a guy like Kenny? Kenny has played a big role in the LA Thieves. I feel like for me, he helped that team out a lot and made a lot of plays. He plays like with a scheme type of play style, and yeah, and he'll definitely help Optic. We don't have to play him anymore. Obviously, everyone knows that. He kind of became the ace that once was for Optic. But yeah, this honestly works well. We've seen this before with Crim6, who we brought in, who at one point was our nemesis, and we brought him in and helped us a lot to win. He brings that winning mentality that we've needed this long. And hopefully this helps Dashi and Shotzi be more consistent and hopefully close out those series when we really need it. But yeah, they are my third team. I do have them lower than the next two because I feel like Kenny and Dashi have to prove how good they are as an AR duo. And if this was a sub-meta game, I feel like this team would be a little bit better than the second place team. But for me, I feel like in an AR meta, our third AR may not be as good. So we kind of lack on the AR meta, but hopefully Pred or Shotzi, whoever runs third AR, which is kind of in the air still, hopefully they can figure it out and one of them can play a lot better than these other teams. But yeah, they are my third team for this season. All right, for my second team, for this CDL Power Rankings, I have a team who honestly looked great last year, couldn't close it out at Champs, but played very well before Champs, played well during Champs, before the finals, played great during the end of the season. Had a good win with Hicksy, and yeah, and then they kind of slowed down after that, but they still played great. Scrappy looked amazing for this team. And yeah, I am talking about Toronto Ultra. All right, yeah, for me, this team, they've kept 3 out of 4, and they looked great last year. They kind of needed that dirty work player. And yeah, and they were able to bring Envoy. Envoy looked like one of the best dirty work players, and after leaving LA Thieves, kind of made it easy for them to pick him up. Sadly, this is not a sub meta game, so I don't think they could be a first place team. But I do think that this AR duo is a little better than Optic. This is why I have them higher than Optic. Because I feel like Insight and Scrappy have already shown that they're good enough, and we still have some to prove with the Optic duo. But I think Insight, Scrappy have shown how good they are, and they just needed a dirty work player, which Envoy brings for this team. And yeah, and maybe in a sub meta, they're not second place, but I think for me, this AR duo has proven how good they are. And I don't know who's going to run 30R, but I do think that whoever does is going to play great. So hopefully this team can prove that they're the number one team, but for me, they're my second team. All right, for my last team, my final team, for this preseason CDL power rankings, I have no other than FaZe. FaZe has played amazing. Last year, we're able to scrap out, some wins, with Slasher, and kind of realized that they needed a little bit more, free power, freedom into playing how they want to. They didn't get exactly what they wanted out of Slasher, and they were looking for a true flex player. At this point, everyone knows that Celium is kind of a main AR, so they were looking for a flex player, and yeah, and Draza got the first dibs. They were able to get Draza. I think any AR would have fit well in this team. At this point, they could have grabbed anyone, and they were able to grab Draza, who kind of fits this team, makes their S&D a little better, and improves on them winning more S&Ds. But Draza fits well in this team. I think that he just needs to make sure they get the rotations and all that. But besides that, I think he'll be a great player added to this team. And I don't think it changed much, but makes him a little better. And then this game, I think Simp will strive a little more than these other second subs. So he might play better with an AR in his hands. And so I think this fits very well for him. And yeah, and I think that this team is the number one team. All right, guys, this is my preseason CDL power rankings, bringing you my first video for the season. This is what my top 12 looks like. Some obviously will change. We will see after the first weekend. And yeah, happy to be back. Bringing videos every week, a couple videos here and there. This will be the start. And yeah, this is the Objectively Outlook show. And yeah, hopefully bringing you more videos. Goodbye, YouTube.